Mr. Titus. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure.
It's been our pleasure to have you here.
In this very nice building.
Yeah. Please, can you introduce yourself, a little bit of your journey?
Sure.
Yeah.
So my name is Titus in Bengali, but Titus in English. And I live in the Netherlands. I work as a senior researcher at the Hague University of Applied Science in the research group Sustainable Business Models. And in this group, we focus a lot on circular business aspects, mainly on how business models can kind of prepare themselves for what's coming in the future. Mm-hmm. And within that portfolio, I focus mostly on textile circularity and the relationship between Bangladesh and the Netherlands, and how these two countries with that function in different parts of the supply chain,
right,
how they're also relevant to each other more in the circular narrative. So that's my focus as a researcher.
Okay, you're connected with the Hague University of Applied Science,
correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's what sort of mission that Hague University is giving you to do this?
Yeah, so I work for that research group that focuses only on the sustainable business models, and within that I focus on circularity, but I work on behalf of the Dutch Enterprise Agency, which has the abbreviation RVO.
And this is a private agency?
This is an agency that's part of the government.
Okay.
And they have provided some project funding for different initiatives that are meant to stimulate the relationship between the Netherlands and Bangladesh towards circularity.
Right.
And because of what we spoke about before, my background is...
I would be very interested to know about it.
Yeah, so
the Dutch and Bengali route. Tell us more about it.
Yeah. I work, for my research, I work between Bangladesh and the Netherlands, but my roots are also between Bangladesh and the Netherlands.
So you got father from...
My mom's from Bangladesh,
okay,
and my father's from the Netherlands.
Okay.
So I lived here as a child for about 8 years.
Mm-hmm. In Dhaka?
In Dhaka.
Okay.
Yeah, I lived here and I went to school here, and then in my teenage life I went to boarding school in India. And then after that I basically moved to Europe. I did my PhD in England.
Okay.
In social entrepreneurship.
Which university you done?
University of Essex.
Okay, great.
But in that time I was doing my PhD in social entrepreneurship, and I did my field research here in Bangladesh again with smaller social enterprises.
Uh-huh.
And that led to then I realized, I actually really love being here, and there's so much interesting things going on in the industry here. So slowly I tried to also connect my educational and research work more to Bangladesh while still being in the Netherlands.
Okay. So from your work, you have to visit Bangladesh quite frequently, is it like that?
I try to come twice a year. Sometimes 3 times. It depends a bit on the projects.
Right.
But my work in this particular field with the government projects has been going on for the last 4 years or so. So for that period, I've been traveling
quite frequently,
roughly 2 to 3 times a year, based on the requirements of the project.
So how, if I ask you, how was your feeling interested in circular textiles or circular economy and sustainability?
Yeah.
What brings you up in choosing this?
I think for a long time I worked more in the entrepreneurship field and the incubation field, and then you're working very much with smaller companies or individuals, right? The entrepreneurs themselves.
Right.
So I did a lot of research and work on that, and then I realized as much as I enjoy this, I enjoy the larger system more. Mm-hmm. And when you're working on more ethical and sustainable business models, the larger system naturally gravitates towards circular systems. Mm-hmm. So then I started to focus my research more on what we call systems thinking. Mm-hmm. Instead of looking at the entrepreneur only, we look more at the role of the entrepreneur in the bigger picture. And how does policy and how does the supply chain connect to the entrepreneur? And then slowly, circularity started to enter the picture more and more for me. Mm-hmm. And I realized if I want to work on sustainability in the larger scheme, circularity is a very interesting area to explore. And it's a topic that's being explored and researched a lot in specific industries, and textiles is a big one.
Right.
I would say sometimes that it's become the poster child of circularity, that we're testing a lot of our circularity expertise and theories within the textile industry. And perhaps that's because consumers can connect to textiles very well. And there's a lot of work to be done in the global aspect of the textile industry. So some more technical industries, I think it's perhaps more complicated or more technically challenging to adapt circularity. So I felt circularity, textiles is a nice place for me to start. Also, if I'm honest, because it allowed me to come home.
Right, true. Great. From a researcher point of view, I would like to know from you that what is circularity to you?
Yeah, so circularity for me is, right now for me, it's still a bit of a utopian idea.
Okay.
I'm not sure yet if it can or can't work, but this is what I find interesting and mysterious almost.
Okay.
And for me, it's about figuring out how we can close the loop within a linear supply chain. So moving from a linear straight supply chain where we produce a garment. So for example, the shirt you're wearing, we produce it for you as the consumer, but we don't think about that shirt in how could we produce it so it has a second life.
Yeah,
or a third life.
after using this.
Then we think about it.
Okay.
But that's like, for me, that's a very low-level version of circularity. For me, the more intellectualized version would be, let's think about it much earlier in the supply chain. So for me, there's a lot of focus on circularity on waste. How do we reuse waste? This is important for sure, but the more utopian idea is how can we create it from the beginning in such a way that waste has already been thought about, not as an afterthought.
Okay.
So it's maybe a bit more of a radical version of it, but that's what I'm trying to explore more, which also leads me more to Bangladesh as a manufacturing hub within the supply chain. That's where the design and manufacturing happens more. So that's an interesting starting point. Whereas in Europe or in the Netherlands, the focus is often a bit more on what do we do with the waste after consumption, right? Or how do we track the materials before consumption as well?
Right.
But still the narrative there tends to focus on recycling more and more. And here I see the same narrative in a way, and I'd like to try to shift more towards the design element as well.
And what is sustainability to you?
Sustainability, a colleague of mine always flips it and says, sustainability is the ability to sustain.
Okay, that it should be.
That it should be.
Yeah.
So for me, sustainability isn't a green environmental aspect only. It's part of it, but it's also commercial health, the ability to sustain citizens, the ability to sustain industries, right? So we have to create systems that are environmentally friendly and ethical from a labor point of view, for example, or a human rights point of view, but also something that's commercially viable. So it's this typical, what we call triple P thinking, the people, planet, and profit. There has to be a good balance in this.
Okay.
And otherwise it can't work.
Right. For example, something came in my mind when we talk about sustainability. Or, for example, factory owners or the manufacturer of textile finished goods, if they are following their own business model, right? They really don't look they really don't look for sustainability. That's my perception. Why? For example, if I bought this shirt, I can use it for 5 years or maybe 10 years. If it's a good material shirt and comfortable, I can use it. But the trends or the propaganda, whatever you call, they're alluring us to buy, the new one, the latest one, the another design. So it's been coming from their part, right? So do you think this is...
You mean that the overconsumption
Exactly.
narrative is becoming so strong that it's putting pressure on the manufacturers as well?
Yes, and also it allures customers to buy more, what they don't even need that.
Yeah, I think.
So yeah.
I think similar to. I think we live in a very addictive and overconsumption in society in general, right? If you look at social media consumption, how a social media platform is made in such a way that we're addicted to it.
Right.
I think similarly, the fashion industry or the textile industry is moving in that direction of saying, like, previously we used to have 4 seasons. Now we don't have 4 seasons. We have almost every 2 weeks sometimes we have a new collection.
Right.
And that is my earlier point of that's not sustainable.
Exactly.
See, and then what's happening is we're moving more and more towards cheaper goods. So you said this shirt might last how long?
5 years, 6 years. I
Shirts-
still have many shirts that it's been, I'm using for 5 years, 10 years.
But now I feel more and more shirts won't last for 5 years even. Some
Yeah.
shirts won't last for a year.
Yes, because they have the mechanism
Yeah.
that it won't last.
Thinner threads,
Right.
worse fibers,
Right.
blends that aren't even we can't recycle them because the blends are so poor in quality
Right.
that they just disintegrate.
Exactly.
You know, some of the jackets I bought even from what we call fast fashion brands now, if you bought a jacket from them 15 years ago, the quality is substantially different from the same brand now.
Exactly.
The jacket won't last as long.
So they experimented and they, downgraded this quality.
Yeah.
Now, why I have raised it, because I think sustainability should be on that, to change that mindset, right?
Of the
As you
consumer.
say, it's a kind of addictive things we are in. So
But who created the addiction?
someone definitely.
I think, and this is where it gets so tricky. I was giving a lecture the other day on trying to say who did it.
Yes.
So who's guilty? Who's the guilty party?
Right.
And when you look at it, this is why I like circularity, because within circularity, utopian version of circularity, the idea is that we move towards looking at the system holistically and not the individual parts. So is the
Right.
consumer to blame? Sure, the consumer's to blame. But is the brand to blame? Sure, the brand's to blame. Is government to blame? Sure, the government's
Of
to blame.
course.
Is the manufacturer or the farmer to blame? Sure, on some level, they're also to blame.
That means all stakeholders are to be blamed.
Exactly.
But
In
the
their own
question,
ways.
Yeah, but the question is, who are controlling this whole?
I think it's a dynamic between them of pressures, constant up and down pressures. So if a brand may, to survive and to compete healthily, or not healthily, to compete, a brand has to follow the narrative of overconsumption. Otherwise, they're kicked out of their competitiveness, right?
Right.
So there's a problem there. To survive, I have to join.
Exactly.
Same for the manufacturer. To survive, I have to squeeze.
Right.
And to survive, I have to use cheaper blends.
Right.
Because my buyer is also asking me, like, look, we need to produce more collections. How do we do it in such a way that it's not so expensive? And how do we do it in such a way that if there's a lot of waste, of a lot of garments that are not even bought, which is crazy. If you
Yes,
think
and
about it.
it's happening in many European
Happening
countries,
a
right?
lot. I don't remember the statistics out of my head, but if we look it up, it's shocking how much percentage is not even sold.
Yes.
But
So these are
problems.
oversupplier, then the
Oversupply.
demand,
But
right?
then you could also say, now we have what we call ultra fast fashion,
Yes.
right? So ultra fast fashion is very cheap production that you can order from manufacturing
So
countries.
doesn't it go against what we're talking about, circularity and sustainability?
It
These are-
does. I think it does. But then some people will say, but that's a policy and government issue. They'll say if the government had a policy on what the minimum requirement of quality is, and that you have to have certification, then this wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
So then the shift, so every party can in some way shift the blame onto another link in the supply chain. And I think then you basically, you freeze up and you just wait for the other party to play their role. And I think in the work I'm doing, I would like to, in a sober way, in a rational way, I would like to see if we can shift that needle to reactiveness, to being more proactive. That's what my, I guess, my thinking on it now is, and I realize it's very utopian, and I realize it's not so easy to do. But that being said, it's interesting to explore, right? How can we shift that needle so people work together? Like, how often do you see? I'm often told, as a researcher, I'm not a producer. Right?
Of course.
So, of course, my knowledge is limited to the exact things.
Right.
But I'm often told that a brand will tell a manufacturer exactly how to design.
Exactly.
Right? And so you get a design brief, and if you follow that brief and you're the most competitive bid, you get the bid.
Right.
But it's so much more interesting to think like, okay, how could we create an environment where the design process is done also with the Bengali designer, so that we can think more strategically, because the manufacturer knows how to reduce waste, or maybe even can go further down the supply chain to see what other materials we could use.
Right.
So instead of depending on the design process from the buyer only, who has one objective, let's look at designing more collectively. Maybe even designing, and this is what I find very interesting, maybe even designing with the second life in mind. So as an example, imagine if this shirt was designed in such a way that the stitching can be taken out very easily and the clothing can be used as insulation for a car.
Right.
But it's made to be made for that. So the recycling
has
is
to be
made
designed,
easy,
yeah,
which
right.
would mean you would have to get like a brand, a car manufacturer, a manufacturer, and maybe like the raw material provider in a room to say, how are we going to change this supply chain to create something different?
And if we think circularity, it should be like this, right? To have all together and make a plan. Okay, I will talk about Bangladesh perspective in terms of circularity and in terms of sustainability, okay? As you know, Bangladesh is a volume-driven manufacturing hub till now. Do you foresee that Bangladesh will shift from this, what do you call, production-driven to the more like leadership-driven hub in future?
By leadership, you mean setting the standard?
Yes, setting the standards and not only the cheap things, innovative.
I think the way I see it is we've had a lot of turbulations in the world recently, right? With tariffs, energy fluctuations, resource scarcities as well. Materials are getting more expensive. The competition between these big manufacturing powerhouse countries is becoming very tense for survival.
True.
And I think that's, for me, I like to look at trends and what might happen in the future. I can't predict it. But the way I see it is there's a tipping point where you have to, as a country, find within that a unique selling point for yourself. And then the question is, what will that unique selling point be? Right? And one of the unique selling points that I sometimes hear from the associations and the universities and the manufacturers is, we would like to become the most sustainable manufacturing hub in Asia. And if that's the case, then that's an interesting, unique selling point to explore. What would that mean for a country like Bangladesh? And the way I see it is, if you want to do something like that, then you're the one who has to start setting the standard for sustainability. So it's not a reactive strategy then anymore, from saying there's regulations coming in the West and there's brands are doing demand, buyers are doing demands. The shift then comes to, okay, if we want to set the tone, that would mean that we proactively have to also suggest things in that narrative, in that discussion, on what we think from a manufacturing point of view should be the gold standard for sustainability. And I'm not saying Bangladesh is necessarily going there, but I'm hearing whispers that Bangladesh would like to explore that slowly. But that means stepping out of, let's say, the shadows a bit of the conversation, and then getting in front of the conversation and making suggestions, strategic forecasting of, as a manufacturing country, or for any manufacturing country, we want to set the tone for what sustainable manufacturing is in 2030, in 2050.
Right. I would like to know that, do you think that many Bangladeshi manufacturer owners, owners of the factories, they have a misconcept about sustainability? Do you think so?
I think,
if not all, but a few.
I think this is not even unique to manufacturers, though. I think in general, sometimes sustainability is convoluted with the idea of green and the environment only, or with like the human rights issues around manufacturing, that have been a bit of a stain on the manufacturing industry. these are the things we tend to focus on a lot. But I think, so yes, I do think that there's maybe a bit of a tunneled focus on what sustainability is. And I think that manufacturers...
I mean, what I mean to say is, for example, are they thinking this sustainability is more, it's coming from the buyers? I mean, they think that I have to do it because they said it. It's not like that this sustainable frame is good for me if I look at it. So I will see all the benefits I'm having. So it's not like...
Yeah. I agree with... So it was interesting. I was at an art gallery a few years ago in Bangladesh, and someone was telling me, they were talking about art in Bangladesh, and someone highlighted to me that in a lot of art, the village life is portrayed with nostalgia. So we in the city like to look at the village life as the peaceful, tranquil place that Bangladesh is. But in Dhaka is not that, right? And then for me, sustainability then is, how can we develop a mindset amongst manufacturers that they don't think, oh, we're doing sustainability because of the textile, because of the buyer saying or the regulations are saying it. Instead, we're doing it because we want to preserve what is ours.
Right.
So it's for us. It's not for them, it's for us. Clean waters,
right.
Beautiful rivers. I mean,
Pure art.
The environment we have here is amazing. The plants that grow here is incredible.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's why probably when we look at a picture of our village, it soothes our eyes, it soothes our mind instantly, right? So
I guess my philosophy behind this is, how can we encourage manufacturers to feel so comfortable with and empower them to be like, oh, I want to work. I know this is commercial, I know this is competitive, but there's also a bigger picture that I actually really love to work on, and give them the support and encouragement to work on that. I think that for me is a more holistic approach to sustainability. Not just thinking about the factory, but thinking of the country and the environment, you know, where the factory is based.
Like our ecosystem, our nature system, right?
Thinking about the next generation.
Right.
That's for me also, it's also part of the circularity narrative to move away from the idea of extractive only and moving more towards the idea of regenerative thinking. How do we take from the environment in such a way that we're regenerating the environment constantly? Right,
right. Tell us what areas of the circular transformation in Bangladesh, which one you will prioritize? If I name out like waste management, fiber recycling, renewable energy, water reduction or less consumption of water, or circular production design, traceability, or DPP. What it should be your preferential sequences?
I think what we're going to see is we're going to see a lot of focus on DPP and traceability. So a lot on data collection and supply chain traceability, just because of the regulations that are coming up. We're going to see more and more of that quite soon. And we touched on this a bit earlier. There is an association with circularity right now, with circularity and waste, which is actually a lower R strategy in the circularity ladder. So the highest strategies are rethinking the supply chain. The lower recycling is actually quite low strategy, because it means that you're not designing for a circular loop, you're designing for waste and then managing the waste, which is, it's still a linear economy with a bit of a spin-off. So, but I've noticed that waste is a big focus, as it is in Europe, by the way. So in Europe, it's a consumption waste, and in manufacturing countries, it's production waste. And there's a lot of focus on that, and there's more and more funding and research focused on that area. So I think in the next, let's call it the next 5 years or the next 10 years, we will see a focus on traceability, data collection, transparency, and waste.
Right. Since traceability comes out, I would like to know traceability. Why we need traceability? For example, just 10 or 20 years back, even Bangladesh was a manufacturing hub 20 years back, and where at that time European buyers or Western buyers used to come here, check the quality by their own feelings, hands, and everything, or by machines. And if it is ready, they said, okay, ship it. So that was the earlier version of extracting things. But since, I would say, last 10 years, the traceability comes up. Now it's more and more. Traceability has to be there, sort of pressures from Western thing.
Yeah.
Why this traceability we need? Do you think that this traceability is for supporting certain people or certain group of people? Do you think so? Is it?
I think.
If you understand my point.
Yeah, I totally get it. I think the idea behind starting with the traceability narrative comes from a positive place.
Yes.
So it comes from the idea that we want to formalize the supply chain and make it so that it's very transparent. So we know that there's nothing strange going on in the supply chain, either when it comes to emissions or human rights issues, that it's all very transparent and well documented, right? But what I am noticing is that the cost of traceability is then a big question. Who should carry that cost?
Right.
So that cost is then often transferred onto the manufacturing hub to deal with these sometimes over-engineered requirements.
Right.
And then where does that price come out? The buyer will most likely not carry the price difference. It's most likely the manufacturer and the consumer who will carry the price difference.
Right.
But the traceability, like you mentioned, digital product passport. This is from a regulatory point of view, right? So the brands, the buyers, have to adhere to that regulation, and then they pass that requirement on down the supply chain more and more. I think overall it's with good intentions, but this is an industry that's that has so much pressure. It's like a pressure cooker almost, that it puts more pressure on, right? And more pressure. And then it's a very exhausted industry in that sense.
Yeah.
So that's my worry a bit. I think in essence it's good that we're checking and tracing and seeing where things are, but there's also an over-engineering, over-reporting, over-accounting that...
And maybe in some cases it can be abused even. When you can trace, you can, kind of, if I give example of sanctions, the sanction practices what is seeing around. So traceability, to me, it can become a tools where you can control the sanctions to this,
Yeah, and it's a good point. Connected to this is the factories that are already practicing and understand certifications. They will most likely dominate and monopolize the market more. Whereas the factories that are lower tier or have not formalized as much, they probably won't be able to keep up. So then what you also have is you have maybe an unhealthier level of competition where you have a few big manufacturing companies that start to monopolize the market more. And the smaller ones that can't keep up or don't know what's going on, they won't be able to keep up as much and they might be squeezed out. That's also a worry, right? Because you want diversity in the manufacturing industry. True.
Tell me about the upcoming U.S. sustainability regulations, which from European Union, and the digital product passport (DPP) requirements. As many European traceability brands are coming Bangladesh, they're always telling that the ESG regulation is coming soon. After that, you won't be able to export if you don't follow this. So can you please just tell us?
I think it's very important for manufacturers. This is also part of the work that I'm doing here, is to keep up, to at least have someone who's strategically looking at the trends of regulations in Europe and stay up to date with it. Regulations in Europe shift, so we sometimes have a regulation that has certain requirements depending on the size of your company for reporting standards, and it changes over time because there's pressuring from lobbying. Therefore, the manufacturers should stay up to date on this. The big one right now is the digital product passport, and that basically requires a digitalized tracking capability to see exactly the life cycle of the product.
Right.
Right, so that's a very digitized version that should be accessible. And that's the big one that's coming up. We also have, I think
This EU
there's more,
sustainability regulation.
yeah, there's a lot though. There's a lot.
Okay, do you know anything about this sustainability laws? What is the last status within Bangladesh government to the manufacturer here? Do they have, I mean, all the manufacturers, do they have to submit a yearly sustainability report, or what is the status right
This
now?
topic is not, I don't know this so well. I think this
Okay.
I have slides and information on, but in my head I don't have it off the top of my head.
So it's yeah, because some of them they come and say it has to be implemented before, I mean, on 2030. So they're giving a
like
roughly
this.
time frame for next 4 to 5 years. Every manufacturer has to be ready to comply with this.
What I can say about that though is that compliance even in the West changes sometimes. So sometimes it will say by 2030 this regulation will be fully enacted in this size company, and sometimes the reporting requirements are actually downsized over time.
Okay, please tell us about Hague initiative. You were
Textile
one of
Hague,
the, yeah,
yeah.
Textile Hague.
So Textile Hack was one of the projects that I was fortunate enough to work on with BUFT, with BGMEA University for Fashion and Technology. So this was a project between Groningen University, where I was working at the time, BUFT, and BAE, Bangladesh Apparel Exchange.
That University of
Groningen.
Groningen.
Groningen, yeah, that's
Groningen. It's hard to pronounce for me. This is from Netherlands?
This is from Netherlands as
Okay.
well. Yeah, so they also have like a department that focuses more on textile.
Okay.
And the initiative here was we wanted to work together to have a dialogue with lecturers to exchange how do we teach students, or let's say young students that have entrepreneurial ambitions, to come up with solutions for challenges in the textile industry. How can we support them?
Okay.
So we came up with a program where students can come in and we bring them through an incubation process where they learn about what is circularity, what are circular design principles, also regulation issues in the West, but also what are the challenges in manufacturing here. And then slowly they pick a challenge, whether it's waste or energy transition or water consumption, whatever the challenges they want to work on. And then we guide them through an incubation process. And we have a pitching, we call it a prototype bazaar, where the students showcase their prototypes, and then we have judges from the industry.
So where does it take place? I mean,
This takes place at BUFT.
At BFT. And frequencies?
It was every semester, but the project was so in demand, so we only had capacity for about 50 students because it was an
50 students for one semester. I mean,
yeah.
Okay.
So it was an offline, very like, we did a lot of activities for those students. So we could only manage for about 50 students, field trips, and a lot of access to budgets for prototypes as well. And then when we realized the demand was so high, now we're actually turning it into a digital course.
Okay.
So our aim is now that 1,000 students can follow it per semester.
Okay.
And then they follow the digital
Are they
videos.
open? Are they open for any students,
So
or only for
the first round, this first iteration will be for BUFT to pilot it, to make sure that it works well.
When will it be?
This will launch in March of 2027.
Okay.
So we're now developing it actually.
Okay. Okay.
So the idea is that they watch the videos and then they're able to come up with the solution, slowly learn about circularity, learn about challenges, pick a solution, and they get credits for this course. So it's a 3-credit course.
And this university, Groningen.
Yeah.
This university, how they supports this?
So I worked for Groningen University in this capacity.
So you're directly involved with this?
Exactly.
Okay.
So we would give the case studies from the Netherlands as well as examples.
Great. So I wish you all the best for this Textile Hack initiative.
Thank you.
While it's coming in digitalized and attracting more people in online platform, right?
Yeah, we're very excited about it.
Right. And I also heard about Stage initiative that you've taken.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it.
So the Stage initiative is an initiative between the Hague University and BAYLA, the Young Leader Association. And it's funded by the Dutch Enterprise Agency, and it has support from the Dutch Embassy here. And this stage is actually a very interesting project. So the president of Stage, Abrar Sayem, and me met at a conference in the Netherlands once.
Okay.
And then I found out about BAYLA.
BAYLA, yeah.
And then I thought, oh wow, this is a group of second generation factory owners. These are actually the ones that could really have an impact, right? Because they have the resources and the means to do something. So we spoke, I met with the board of BAYLA, and we talked about setting up a project together. And then first I did some research amongst their members to find out, are they even interested in circularity? And if they are, what do they want? And it came down to, yes, we want to know what circularity is. We also want to know, though, how to embed it in our business models so it makes commercial sense for us. So we came up with a project initiative that's now funded by the Dutch Enterprise Agency. It's a 3-year project. And what we're going to do is we're going to offer very high-level executive training to textile executives. So the owners of factories, essentially.
Okay.
And the training is made in such a way that when you follow the training, you pick a few topics, like the topics you mentioned, energy transition, waste, water waste, waste management. You pick the topics that are relevant for your business, and then in the training, you develop a roadmap for your factory. So you leave the training with a roadmap. But what we've also said is, we want to support you in doing something with circularity. So if you complete the training, at the end there's an exclusive matchmaking event where we introduce you to Dutch brands and Dutch technology service providers who want to do something with a Bengali factory when it comes to sustainability or circularity.
That's great.
So for example, there might be a brand that says, I want to do something with, we were talking about banana fibers. I want to do something with banana fibers. Is there a factory that's participated in the training that wants to do that with me? Then we can co-create a collection.
That's great.
But there's also, for example, a company in the Netherlands that makes textile dyes out of seaweed. And they're interested in offering their dyes to a manufacturer.